And welcome back, everybody. Jeff, what are we going to talk about today?
I got a good one, man. I got something that's been on my heart. I want to talk about this. But first, before I do, I got to tell you a little bit of a story. Got to tell you a little bit about myself and how I came to end up here in Indiana.
Go for it.
Because I wasn't born here. I was born in Texas, and I moved to Florida, and then I moved here. It was like the Great Triangle.
Okay.
You know?
Yeah.
But here's the story. I want you to picture this. It's 2014, around the time.
All right.
And here I am driving up in a U-Haul. All right, I've got a U-Haul with all my earthly possessions in it. Sure. And I'm driving through western Ohio, and I cross into Indiana. Now, here's the thing. I'd never been to Indiana, except I flew in one time, but didn't really know about Indiana. So here I am driving on US Highway 20, which, kind of runs right through northern Indiana here. And I'm driving in this U-Haul. And there it is, man. I see it in the distance. I'd heard about it.
Yeah.
I'd been told about it, but I wasn't ready. I saw in the distance a horse and buggy.
Uh-oh.
And it was just a speck. But I knew it wasn't a car. It was on, the corner of the road, horse and buggy. And I'm like, this is it. I've been told about the Amish and how they have the horses and buggies. And like they're all over the place, and like, this is something that's just commonplace in northern Indiana.
Sure.
And I'm driving my U-Haul, which seemed unfair, but here I am, driving this giant U-Haul, and I'm getting closer, and I'm like, wait a minute, what is that? And so it was definitely a horse and buggy, but there was something else.
Oh yeah,
there was something else.
What was that?
And I got closer, and I got closer, and I got closer, and what I saw, it changed me that day. It changed how I thought about reality, and I thought about the world, and all the things we think of, and
yeah.
Because here it was, man. I want you to picture this. There's the horse, one horse.
Right.
There's the buggy. Behind the buggy was a 20-foot bass boat with a Mercury engine on the back.
Being pulled
the buggy? They were triple towing. So you had the horse, you had the buggy, and you had the bass boat. You may not believe me, and the people out there, if you're thinking, this is like, it seems a bit of a paradox. There were 20 horses on the back of that boat, and there was one horse pulling it.
Right.
And I drove by, and my greatest regret is that I couldn't get a picture of that. I was driving U-Haul. Right. But several years later in Shipshewana, Indiana, which is only about 20 minutes from here, stopped at a stop sign, and there he is again. I don't know if it's the same one. There was the horse, the buggy, and the bass boat. And I got a picture this time. So for all of you out there, if you ever come see me at a show or a rally, I will show you this picture because it might be the best picture I've ever taken.
Wow.
But so I say all that to say this, we're going to talk about towing, because if that horse can pull that buggy and that boat, just with modern technology, we've got a lot more than one horse in these trucks now.
Yeah.
So
that's a great segue.
Yeah. I mean, we want to talk about, what can you do with 300 horses? What can one of those pull?
Oh, yeah.
You've got your half-ton trucks, you've got your 3/4 ton trucks, you got your 1 ton, you've got your, beyond that, your F450s and Dodge Ram 4500. They just gets bigger and bigger and bigger and bigger. Right. And we get the question a lot. Well, if I'm new to RVs, so I'm new to towables, I want to get a travel trailer, I want to get a fifth wheel, but what do I need to pull this?
Sure.
with?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it can be very confusing.
It can, and there's a lot of misconceptions out there.
Right.
Like, for example, do you like a half-ton truck? What is a half-ton truck? What does that mean? You know?
Well, honestly, no.
Yeah, right. So a ton is 2,000 pounds. Half-ton is 1,000.
Yeah,
Back in the day, they were rated on payload, and a half-ton truck, you could put 1,000 pounds in it. That's why they call it half-ton.
Okay.
Now, it's more than that now, but they still call them half-ton trucks.
Right.
3/4 ton, 1 ton, like that sort of thing. These 1-ton dually trucks, the dually, they got the 2 wheels in the back on each side. Those can usually carry 2 tons. 4,000 pounds at least.
Right. But if I'm somebody new to the RV industry, right? And obviously the simplistic, definition you gave, which is true, half-ton means half a ton.
Right.
Okay. That's pretty common sense. But beyond that, my next thing would be, okay, if I'm a newbie, I'd be like, hey, how much weight or which size RV can I pull with this half-ton? Yeah. How much can I pull with my 3/4 ton and so on?
So what I want to do today is just give the listening audience a primer, if you will. Just, it doesn't matter if you want to start with a small little travel trailer or one of these big old toy haulers. What do you need? What can you look for? And this is something, and again, I want to say this as a preface to all of this, is that, you and I, Tom, we're just here. We're just friends, right? We're just here talking about these things. This isn't the gospel. This isn't legal advice. This isn't, take this with a grain of salt. Check what we say. It's certainly not going to be exhaustive. And at the end of the day, it's on the owner of the vehicle and the RV to make sure that they're safe and they're within manufacturer specs. Because it all does come back down to, what does the manufacturer of the tow vehicle say that this can pull?
Right.
Now, there's a lot of people out there who I've heard them. Out there, you know who you are. Well, my truck can pull anything. Anything.
Right.
And they mean it.
Oh, yeah.
They mean it.
Yeah.
In fact, the holy grail of trucks, do you know, like the absolute best truck is a Ford 7.3 liter Power Stroke diesel. They stopped making them several years ago, but if you got like a 97 7.3, that's like the cream of the crop right there.
Right. Yeah.
Problem is, legally speaking, it can't pull like half the things that we build. So you got to be careful.
Right.
You got to be careful.
Yeah. Yeah.
So when you look into this, the first thing you're going to decide, obviously we make two different types of towable trailers, right? We make travel trailers.
Yes.
And we make fifth wheels.
Yes. True.
And they are pulled very different ways. The conventional travel trailer, you've got a hitch on the back of the car, you put a ball in there, you put it on there, and you take it down the road. The fifth wheel goes in the bed of the truck.
Mm-hmm.
And the advantage there is that now the connection point, they call it the kingpin, or the hitch up front, that connects in the truck in front or directly over that rear axle of the truck. And why that's important, it's kind of like a semi-truck going down the road.
Yeah.
You get a lot better maneuverability. It's more stable. It's easier to drive.
Because the weight is balanced over that axle.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. And it's not, you don't have like a pivot point behind the axle.
Sure.
Like with a regular travel trailer. Now, there's ways to mitigate that, just sway control, things like that with travel trailers that you don't necessarily need in fifth wheels. But so you have to decide, which one am I going to go for? Now, if you've got a vehicle and that's the one you're going to use to tow, you're kind of stuck. You got to find out what that vehicle can pull. If you've got an SUV, you're not getting a fifth wheel.
Right.
Yep. If you've got a truck, you've got a little bit better, a little broader scope of that you can go and you can find a fifth wheel that might work for you within the weight ratings. But if you're completely new, if you're looking for a vehicle and an RV, I mean, sky's the limit, right?
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
So that's what you got to do. You got to find out, you have to find out some things about the vehicle. Now, first thing, this is easy. You clearly want to find the Grand Design RV first.
And that's what I was going to ask you.
Yeah.
If somebody is new coming into this, let's say I'm new and like, do I buy the truck first? Do I find my RV first? So yeah, is it the cart before the horse, or so to speak?
Yes, you definitely want the cart before the horse.
Yes.
In RVs, put the cart before the horse.
Right. So maybe walk people through that really quick, like that process, that thinking process.
Yeah, because here's the thing. Let's say that you're in the market for a cart and a horse.
Sure.
Okay. And maybe a bass boat too.
Yeah.
We'll get to that. But let's say you're going to do both. So if you go and you get excited about a truck, who doesn't, right?
Right.
I mean, you go on a truck lot, you're in a dangerous position because boy, there's nice trucks out there.
Yeah.
So you go out there and let's say you go and you find a really nice, let's say you get a Ford F-250.
Okay.
Pretty popular, right?
Sure.
Ford F-250. You're like, man, this thing's got a tow package on it. It's got this, it's got that, it's got this, it's got that. And you buy it. You're like, that's it. This is the one I want. And the wife likes the leather trim inside and it just looks great.
Yeah.
And, that sort of thing. So you do that and then you go and you're like, all right, now I'm going to go get a toy hauler.
Okay.
Here's the problem. You go find a toy hauler that you really, really want. Thing's 45 feet long.
Mm-hmm.
The tongue weight, the pin weight on this fifth wheel that you're looking at is almost 4,000 pounds.
Right.
Here's the problem. That trailer cannot be pulled by that truck. Not necessarily. Okay. You could pull it, but it's going to break the truck eventually because the payload of that truck is only going to be, or an F-250, you probably approach 3,000 pounds.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that's less weight than the toy hauler in the bed of the truck weighs without you putting anything in it.
Right.
So it becomes a problem. So I always say, put the cart before the horse. Find the one you want. If you want a 45-foot Momentum, you want this thing that weighs 21,000 pounds,
right.
Find that first and then find the truck for it. Because you may find that you're going to need a 1-ton or you're going to need a dually. And the way you find this out is you're going to find the trailer you want or find the fifth wheel that you want. You're going to go off of, and I always recommend going off of the gross vehicle weight rating, GVWR. Right. On every single trailer made, there's a sticker that has the GVWR. You can also find them online. You can, the gross vehicle weight rating, for those of you guys out there who don't know, is the most that trailer can weigh legally. So when we produce it, you have what's called an unloaded vehicle weight or dry weight. That's what it weighs when we ship it out from the factory.
Empty and nothing in it.
Exactly. So, and let's say it weighs 10,000 pounds right when we make it, and that's got nothing else in it. Let's say the GVWR, I'm just using round numbers, is 13,000. Mm-hmm. So right now it still weighs 10. You can put 3,000 pounds in it, but you can't put any more than that legally.
Okay.
So you're up to the GVWR. That's the maximum loaded trailer weight. And so why it's important to match the tow vehicle there is because if you get a truck that can only pull 12,000 pounds, well, you can still pull it dry, but you can only now put 2,000 pounds into it instead of the full 3.
Gotcha.
So you want to make sure that you match, and you're using the gross vehicle weight rating to match the tow vehicle. And by the way, finding that tow rating for the vehicles, there's a lot of tow guides that are out there. There's online resources. You can actually even call the manufacturer with the VIN number, and they'll tell you the maximum loaded trailer weight. And why I call it that, that's the terminology they use. They don't necessarily say tow rating, because there may be a different tow rating for a travel trailer and a fifth wheel.
Right.
You look at some brands and they'll have it's a lower number for a travel trailer and a higher number for a fifth wheel. Mm-hmm. So they call it maximum loaded trailer weight. And so that's kind of the first step, is finding that out. Now, here's the thing. I'm going to throw a wrench in here. Are you ready for the wrench?
I'm ready for the wrench.
If it's a fifth wheel, now you also have to worry about payload.
Oh.
Because fifth wheels have a much higher pin weight than a travel trailer does. So in a travel trailer,
which makes sense.
Yeah, a travel trailer, you have engineering wise, they're usually going to be somewhere around 10% of a tongue weight. So trailer weighs 5,000 pounds, it's going to be 500 pounds on the tongue, which most vehicles can do. It's not really a big deal. You still have to be cognizant of it, but it's not really a big deal because most vehicles can do it. With a fifth wheel, though, now we're looking at 17 to 23, sometimes more % of the overall weight is going to be up there on the hitch. So let's say something weighs 10,000 pounds. You could have 2,000 pounds upward on the hitch up there, on the kingpin.
Okay.
And with toy haulers, I've used toy haulers as an example earlier, this is something that becomes really important, because here's the thing. An RV, a fifth wheel, it's a big lever, is all it is.
Yeah.
You got the axles, and in a toy hauler, you're putting a lot of weight over and behind the axles.
Sure.
And if you put too much weight back there, it can actually reduce the pin weight up front so much that you lose stability. So when we make them, especially with toy haulers, we have to make the pin weights a little heavier than normal, because to compensate for what you're going to be putting behind the axles.
Okay.
So that's why in my previous example of a 3/4 ton truck, and you're looking at a 45-foot Momentum, and it's just like way overweight. Mm-hmm. That's why you have to be super careful about finding what you want to pull first, and then find the means to pull it.
Okay,
because
makes sense,
you'll need, in that case, you'd need at least a 1-ton dually. Not necessarily because the 3/4 ton might be able to pull it laterally,
right?
But it can't support the weight.
Yeah, I can imagine how disappointing that would be as a new buyer. I go buy the truck first.
Yep.
Hey, look, it's a cool truck, buy it because it looks great. It's got the amenities we want in it and everything. Didn't really pay attention to, what size it was.
Right.
And then we go, hey, let's go look for an RV. And they go find an RV, and let's say, and again, they find the RV they want, but then they realize, oh, we can't pull that cool RV we want with the truck I just bought. So that's probably why that makes sense.
You would be amazed how many times I hear about this happening.
Yeah.
And really what people do, because what they don't want to do is they don't want to, they bought a truck 2 weeks ago. They're not going to go trade it in. They're not going to lose that kind of money on a new truck. And so what they do is they have to settle when it comes to the RV. And we don't want people settling here.
So you've actually talked to people who have been in that situation.
For my entire time in the RV industry.
Okay.
It's very pronounced at a dealership level because people come in and they went to the vehicle, the car dealer first and bought a truck. Here's another tip. When it comes to financing, if you're financing your purchase, whether it be an RV or a truck, it's a lot easier to get approved for a loan for a truck than an RV.
Oh, okay.
So if you start with the RV, you get that approval done, it's a lot easier than going to get a truck loan and then applying for an RV loan because, again, banks look at them two different ways.
That's interesting.
It's unfortunate. It's unfortunate. There's no Grand Design motor credit. Like Ford Motor Credit, Toyota, they've all got their in-house financing.
Yeah.
RV companies just don't. So it's through traditional banks or credit unions or things like that. And so it does make a lot more sense to put the cart before the horse when it comes to RVs in that regard.
Okay.
So, and then just for we talked about tow ratings and how to find them, the cargo carrying capacity or the payload capacity, so in a truck. So this is a little trickier because you can't go online and find a cargo carrying capacity. You can get like an estimate. It's kind of like an average, if you will. But it's the payload capacity. All it is, we talked about GVWR and a trailer. Well, vehicles have those too. So a truck's GVWR, let's say it's 10,000 pounds. Again, we'll just use the round number. 10,000 pounds GVWR. Let's say the truck, when it was produced, weighed 8,000 pounds. So it's just the difference. The cargo carrying capacity is the difference between the dry weight or the curb weight up to the GVWR. So in that instance, it weighs 8,000. The gross weight is 10,000. You have 2,000 pounds of cargo carrying capacity. And so if you're going to pull a fifth wheel, you're going to have to find something less than 2,000 pounds, but not just of tongue weight, but not just that. Realize too that the fifth wheel is not the only thing you're putting in the truck. There's a hitch in there. There's people. There's cargo. There's all that stuff. So you just have to be very cognizant of what that looks like. And a lot of people, that is kind of the Achilles heel of their towing experience is the payload capacity. Because they've got the truck that can pull it, they just can't support it in the bed of the truck. And for those of you out there, if you want to know, if you're looking at a truck or you have a vehicle, this is pretty much the same for any vehicle made in the past, really 20 years onward. There's a sticker in the door jamb, not on the door itself, usually the door jamb. It's a yellow sticker. Yeah. It says tire and loading information. It's got a little picture of a tire on there. It's where all your tire pressures are. But in between where all the tire pressures are, it'll actually say the combined weight of occupants and cargo should never exceed, and it gives you a number in kilograms and a number in pounds.
Okay.
So that's the number you're looking for. That's the cargo carrying capacity, and that's what you work off of to find out what you can put in the bed of the truck. Now, Tom, here's the other thing. This is going to ruffle some feathers.
Okay.
We're going to be a little controversial here. Are you ready?
Okay.
All right. So there's people out there, a lot of people, that I'll talk to them and say, well, this pin weight on this fifth wheel is this much. And, do you know what your cargo carrying capacity of your truck is? And a lot of times people don't, they look it up or whatever. And let's say it's below or really close. And, we as, Grand Design, we can't give official recommendations because we don't build the truck. We don't have all the things, but we're always erring on the side of safety. You might want to find a different unit because this one's probably a little too heavy for this truck.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times we'll get people that'll say, oh, don't worry, I'm going to go get airbags put in.
Okay.
Are you familiar with this? Airbags?
Yes, I have.
So the air springs in the back of the truck. Yeah. So it's an aftermarket edition. They put these air springs or sometimes they're even like physical leaf springs or overload springs, and they'll put them back there. Here's the problem. You have okay. The problem practically, but you haven't solved the problem legally. That's and again, not a lawyer, but this is something you should be aware of. You put airbags in the back, it might level the ride out. It might even give you the ability to practically move that much weight around.
Yeah.
But the difference is when Ford, when Chevy, when Dodge, whoever built that truck, they put a sticker on there that said the GVWR is this. And if you go over that, it's a problem.
Okay.
There are modifications you can do to increase GVWR, but the difference is whoever does those modifications has to recertify the vehicle at a higher GVWR. There's people that'll do it, but you have to do it. It's very difficult to find, and it's usually pretty expensive. Because the last thing you want to do is get in a situation where, whether an insurance situation or a legal situation, and, you put airbags in, but you're still overweight. So you got to be careful with that. So that's kind of towing in a nutshell.
Right. Okay.
You want to make sure that, you're going by the manufacturer's recommendations, that you're getting the right unit. But that is our official, that's going to be our official slogan here. When it comes to RVs, you put the cart before the horse.
Cart before the horse. Okay.
Yeah.
Uh-oh, it's time to go.
Oh, yeah, man, I'm sorry. I actually had a pretty big lunch, and we've exceeded the GVWR of this room.
Oh,
so,
man.
yeah,
okay.
We need to get out of here before we're held legally culpable.
Okay,
yeah,
all right. All right, well, Jeff, thanks a lot for this week, and we will talk to everybody later.
Until next time.
Until next time.